Welcome back, everybody, to the Renaissance Humanism podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Riley. In today's episode, I'll be discussing geopolitics. Geopolitics is the politics of geography and how that impacts politics and international relations. And this today's episode, I'll be discussing Israel's lack of strategic depth. Israel has a massive geopolitical disadvantage due to being surrounded by hostile nations and hostile cultures, allowing terrorist groups in the form of Hamas patrolling the Gaza Strip and Hezbollah that are influential in the country of Lebanon, as well as other anti-Semitic, I can say that right, group predominantly operating in the region as well. If Israel force people face another Holocaust and a humanitarian disaster unprecedented since the end of World War II, and the Israelis add to this danger as well the lack of strategic depth. To give it some perspective, the United Kingdom is 11 times larger than the state of Israel. The United Kingdom is approximately 243,610 SQ kilometers, while Israel is 21,939 SG kilometers km. Hope I got that right. What this means in practical terms is that Israel must fight their wars offensively because any invasion of Jewish territory, will lead to the deaths of 100,000 of Israelis and its tiny Jewish population. As of March 2023, Israel's population is approximately around 9.73 million, and Jews make up 73.5%. That's around about 7.45 million people in the actual state of Israel is actually Jewish. Or if you're Americans, Jewish. If you're Americans, you'll get the joke. The Arab community spans various religions, and Judaism accounts for about 21, around 20. Oh, sorry about that. Arabs account for about 21% of the actual population as well. Okay. Strategic depth is where a nation can trade space. This is giving up its territory, its internal territory, for its enemies, so that the enemies overextend their supply lines, thereby giving the defending nation the opportunities to resupply themselves and shorten their supply lines. A great example of this is the British and Germans fighting in North Africa over control of Libya and Egypt during World War II. Each side repeatedly overextended their supply lines, gaining an advantage, then overextending themselves, and a backwards and forward between the Germans, Italians, and British would take place. As for Israelis, it's the world's only Jewish state. They don't have uh, these options like the British did or the Germans. Either they win or they die because they have no territory which they can trade space for time with. After all, if they do this, they face risk of the slaughter of the Jewish populations of Israel. Israel don't have to conquer more territory or expand their borders to provide more strategic depth and keep the war outside of the core Israeli territories. The reason for this are as follows. One, Israel is a democratic nation, and democratic nations and countries typically don't conquer other lands. The second reason is that if Israel took more Arab territories, it Jewish majority population becoming a minority, and therefore Israel to be a Jewish state would cease to exist. It would defeat the point of Israel existed in the first place. The Jews are ruling Israel. Was the whole point of Israel to protect the Jewish state and its people. It is a state founded upon ethnic and religious and cultural identity of the Jewish state for the Jewish people. The state itself was founded in the aftermath of World War II in 1945, where over 6 million Jews were killed in Nazi concentration camps. So the whole point of a Jewish state is to protect the Jewish peoples, and what's happened in Nazi Germany and Central Europe will never happen again as well. If it does, the Jewish state's goal is to keep its people safe and keep the Jewish faith alive and culture on the go, keep it going. Israel was founded on the 14th of May 1948. It may seem to our modern understanding of contemporary politics that placing Israel in a hostile region in the Middle East was a complete and utter baloney, big mistake. However, unfortunately, history is written in blood, and there's no easy solutions, only trade-offs. That's why Israel was actually founded in the location where it actually was founded after horrors of World War II because they didn't feel safe in Europe. The Jews didn't feel safe because in Central Europe. In Europe itself, millions of them was killed, so they didn't trust staying in Europe, and they didn't trust staying anywhere else. I believe the Russians, when they liberated Jews from concentration camps, they said to them, don't go west, nobody wants you. Don't go east, nobody wants you. So that's just a bit of information why Israel wanted to stay, why the Jews wanted to stay in Israel as well. They're a bit more complicated than that because the British during World War One from 1914 to 1918 uh, promised the Jews independent state where it is now. They also promised the Palestinians independent state where it is now as well. Obviously, the British didn't really keep their promises to either side, and also that the British promised both of them a state in the same territory. The reason for this, the British were fighting World War One. They were desperate. They were losing the war at times. The Russians were defeated in 1917, and that at the end of the day, the fighting World War, the British would promise them Mars if they thought it would help them win the war, and that's why we are where we are today. Um, Now I'm going to give you historical examples of strategic depth in action. The Dutch Republic, this is the Dutch Republic now, the Dutch Republic successfully traded space for time using strategic depth by flooding the Dutch waterline during the Third Anglo-Dutch War or the Franco-Dutch War of 1672 to 1778. A bit of context, the Dutch spent about nearly 200 years across the war, first with the Spanish, and then with the French, I believe it was from the 1580s and pretty much onwards for another 120 years. Uh, please just Google it online, but that's pretty much like 120 years. Some say it's more, some say it's less, but that usually 120 years. I've got a bit war for the okay to the normal broadcasting now. This is where William the Conqueror, known to history as William III of England, ordered the flooding of Holland. The armies of France numbered around 400,000 strong compared to the Dutch Republic, who prevented them from actually conquering Holland itself by actually fleeing that territory, thereby denying Louis XIV the opportunity to conquer the Dutch Republic. For people interested in geopolitics, the reason why the French were interested in claiming the Netherlands was because that territory was contested territory between the Kingdom of France and the Holy Roman Empire. And previously, the Kingdom of France did have political dominance and control over that region, but they lost it during the 15th century to the Habsburg family. And also, the Roman Empire did rule that territory, at least technically on paper, but in reality, it has it done for centuries. The French reason for interest in taking the Netherlands was also due to securing its geopolitically, because France to the south was protected by the Pyrenees and the Alps Mountains, so had the protection there. On its north and western coast, it was vulnerable to invasions by the British and the English during the Hundred Years' War and during many other conflicts between England and France from the 1060s all the way until Napoleon's defeat in the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. And the French wanted to take territory running all the way up to the Rhine River, thereby securing the eastern side of France from any invasions from Germany through the Rhine River, which was flat. That's why typically the Germans during World War One and World War Two invaded France, attacked France, or tried to attack them in the case of World War One by going through the area which France didn't control or fortify. So that's why Louis XIV was very much interested in securing those territories as well. The Russians are also another great example of using strategic depth to its sheer size, where when the invading enemies would invade Russia, they'd exhaust their supply lines, the Russian winter would kick in and be pushed out as well. That's why Russia is so interested in taking control of invasion points into Russia in order to provide greater strategic depth. So the important strategic depth is to actually exhaust the enemy. For when they attack your territory, you the the fighting, a lot of the fighting happens in your own territory. Use land to your advantage, like the Dutch have done, as well as use your own natural geography to help improve your odds of victory. With Israel, they just don't have this option. They have to fight offensively. They can't retreat. It's either they win or they die. It's the only option they have. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening and peace out.